Okay, good evening and welcome to the Palmer Town Council meeting of Monday, February 13th. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is visitors' comments for items not on the agenda. Is there anyone that would like to speak? If you could just come up and give your name and address.
I'm Judy Koash. I live on Gate Street, 160 Gate Street, and I just would like feedback on the email I sent every council member on the blight properties that have been in question in my area since 2019. We now have fences caving in. There's oil tanks that are rusting out on properties. These people in this neighborhood all are on wells, and nothing is being done. And every time I come to a meeting, we get the same answer. I'll look into it, I'll get back to you. I'll look into it, I have no idea. Something needs to be done. We've got a piece of property, I believe, on River Street that the town now owns, that squatters are popping in on a regular basis. It should be condemned. Nobody should be able to live in it, and yet nothing's been done with it. Then you have the trailer on the end of Gate Street and River Street. Same thing. We've got people in and out of there. I believe they're spending nights there because stoves are burning, lights are on. That's supposed to be nobody inhabiting, and nothing's being done. I'd like to have some kind of feedback on when it's going to be taken care of. And I would also appreciate if when we send you something as a council member that you would reply. The only one that replied was Barbara. The only one, which saddens me because I thought you all represented the town. So it would be nice to have you all get back to us.
I don't think I got the email.
No, I didn't forward it to you yet. I don't have time. You guys can't stay there. Okay, so I'm just gonna get a name and number. It's right down here. Okay. We don't have any minutes for tonight. I'm sorry. Chris, were you here to speak too? Or just, okay. I didn't see your hand go up, but then I didn't want to, just visiting? Okay.
Did we want to address any of that with any information that we may know?
I don't think, I just looked quickly and those properties are not on the code enforcement list. I will forward the email to Ryan when I get home and we can go from there. And this is her phone number.
Thanks.
And I'll keep this too, but if you want to just write it down. Okay? Okay. So you can expect a response before the end of the week, okay? Okay, we have no old business tonight unless anyone in the council wanted to add anything.
Nope.
Okay. New business, the first item we have is a department head report from Chief Burns.
Hello.
Hello?
First off, I brought supervisors here. I just wanted you to, my intent was to bring all of them, but one of them's working right now, one of them's sleeping so they can work later, so.
Sleeping, come on.
But, so that's a commodity that he doesn't get a lot of. So this is Lieutenant Sullivan, Sergeant Chris Melnick, Sergeant David Burns, Sergeant Jeremy Haley, and Sergeant Kenneth Bear isn't here, and Sergeant Matt Parsons. Those are the people that I just basically wanted to give them a little bit of recognition. They're the ones who are out here every day making all of the tough decisions, and they're the ones who supervise our personnel. So if there's a moment where you need something and you can't get a hold of me, any one of these guys will be more than happy to help you out. And they do an extensive amount of work that I cannot recognize them enough for it because it's just, it's very intensive with police reform, and all of the effort that they do is greatly appreciated. So I wanted an opportunity to say that in front of you guys and to introduce everybody if you haven't met. So, try and make this quick, Barbara. As it relates to the report to the town council, as it relates to administration, the police department's presently under the self-assessment.
Sorry, I think, did we just have someone in the wrong
Go-
area?
okay.
Keep going.
The police department is presently in the self-assessment phase of the accreditation process with the Massachusetts Police Accreditation Commission. That phase of the process involves a thorough examination of the agency by the agency. It's the most labor-intensive portion of that process. The activities in this phase initially begin with a comprehensive review of the standards and review of all department policies. So that's what we're undertaking at the moment. Basically, it's analyzing each standard to determine agency compliance, achieving agency compliance where we don't have compliance, and documenting and centralizing agency compliance for the assessors to review. This phase involves a lot of policy writing, a lot of policy review and revision. So all the supervisory positions in the police department are permanently filled. They include, the gentleman behind you and the two that I already mentioned. All of our supervisory personnel are being trained in the FBI Law Enforcement Executive Development Association, Supervisor Leadership Institute, Command Leadership Institute, and Executive Leadership Institute. That's what we refer to as trilogy training from the FBI, and 3 of the supervisors have received their trilogy awards at this point. That's Lieutenant Sullivan, Sergeant Burns, and Sergeant Haley. Sergeant Bear, Sergeant Parsons, and Sergeant Melnick are in the process. They've completed 1 course, and they'll have the other 2 courses completed before the end of the year. So at that point, all supervisors will have their trilogy award. As far as department operations go, town manager appointed Jenna Geraz to the position of a full-time police officer on the 26th of January. She is the last vacancy that we filled, so with her appointment, we're at 100% vacancies filled. She's in the process of qualifying for the academy at this point in time, and we're moving forward with that process. Our most recent graduates from the academy, there were 2 of them, and there's a 3rd that we hired who didn't require the academy because we hired him, and he was already post-certified and trained in another police department. He's in the process of finishing our field training program right now. He'll be in a solo capacity by mid-March, and the other 2 by late spring. They'll be in solo capacity. The department has received certification and recognition from the International Associations of the Chiefs of Police for completion of the One Mind campaign by having 100% of our personnel trained in crisis intervention. We completed that campaign 18 months ahead of time. There were 3 years allotted for it. We did it in 18 months. And the certification is only for 20% of the department to be trained in that. We trained 100%. Again, that goes to the training staff in the police department who was responsible for that. We've developed and implemented policies and procedures as it relates to individuals with mental health conditions. We've been involved in sustainable partnership with Behavioral Health Network since August of 2020 to provide a basic crisis level mental health support and response alternatives to persons in crisis. We're in the process right now of changing from BHN to CHD to provide that same service. We have a signed memorandum of understanding. We just filed the grant today, as a matter of fact, with Mass Combis, and we are attempting to get a $79,000 grant to continue funding that program. I don't anticipate there'll be any problems with that. It's just a matter of waiting for the paperwork to go through. That'll provide us with a co-response individual to respond to mental health calls for service so that we can offer an alternative in the mental health area.
Do we have that now, Chief?
We've had it it started in 2020. We went for a period of time where they had difficulty. So the individual that fills that position is not an employee of the town. It's an employee of the agency that we contract with. Where it was previously BHN, they just had trouble filling it. So we had an individual for a period of time, then it went vacant for a little bit, then we had another individual, then it went vacant again. And then we transitioned the Department of Mental Health has now awarded a state contract with CHD. So that's kind of changed things a little bit. So now we're going with CHD. And so at the present time, we do have an individual that has been selected to fill that position. So as soon as we get the grant funding, then that will be filled. So that person's just waiting to go. And we plan on continuing that in years to come, and it will continue to be grant funded. We're not going to be, it doesn't come out of the town budget. So that has, and for the period of time that we've had that, it's been very successful. It's been something our officers really appreciate having that resource, and I think the people in the community do as well. So it's been, you know, for the times that we've used it, it's been very successful. So. We are, we've done our active shooter training. We did that back in the summer of last year. That's a continuing thing that we're doing. We're developing a program now where we're working with all other agencies. We're going to be working with the fire department, the fire departments and the ambulance, and creating a response that involves everybody, because everybody would be involved in that response. So the training officers are in the middle of doing that. I think we have something set up next week, I think.
We started a committee and we should be meeting in the beginning of March.
Okay, so that's underway to get that done so that everybody's on the same page. Body worn camera program, that has been 10 months now that's been fully functional. We haven't had any issues with it. It's provides a lot of good footage for training. It's a good program, works real well. So the only issues that we have is that it does take quite a bit to manage that program. So, but I think we kind of knew that going in. So over the last few years with POST and all the requirements from POST, we ended up, developing a very comprehensive training program for our new officers and continuing education as well for all of our personnel. The police department's training program meets all the POST and Municipal Police Training Commission requirements. We have developed an in-house training program that is utilized in addition to professional development programs in the academy and from other industry experts. We presently have 2 sergeants who are certified instructors for the Municipal Police Training Council. They are eligible to teach in police academies statewide, so not only just for our department, but they also teach statewide. That's a great resource to have for us. Additional personnel are enrolled and encouraged in the department to get involved in a municipal police training and to get certified and to go into the academies and teach, as well as teach in the community. Once they're certified in the academy, they can teach certain courses at our police department, which saves on training. We use our training room an awful lot now. We host a lot of trainings, so we get some free trainings out of that. So that's all working out very well as well. So we've recently assigned 2 officers to the position of health and wellness specialist. That's a big part of police reform is officer wellness. We're beginning an officer wellness program. Sergeant Kenneth Bear and Officer Nicholas DeGray are assigned to that position. As such, they'll begin to receive specialized training relative to health and wellness instructor, peer support, and they'll become what we call GRIN certified or group crisis certified. Those officers will work to develop a program in the police department with the goal of providing support to other employees and assist with improvement of the health and wellness of the personnel of the Palmer Police Department. Those officers will also be available to provide that peer support in a confidential manner. They'll be knowledgeable of available resources, and they'll be able to go out and provide that information or that support to other agencies as well.
Good.
Any questions? I think it's great that like all this training, like that, I mean, I know it's very time consuming to send everyone to training and do all that. And then the accreditation, and that will be great down the road. I know it's not an overnight thing, but,
It's a pretty long process.
I I understand that.
to turn into, but and the training aspect, we really developed a lot of in-house training and an ongoing training program. So we're starting to utilize roll call training so that we can offer more training cheaper. So we're not, and so one of the problems with the training is that it seems like we're always training people now, and it's sometimes problematic running a 24/7 operation and having to be able to juggle the schedules and get everybody in there and, you know, to get people trained. So we're doing roll call training now, shorter trainings, more often, and that's where we're going with that. So, and our firearms training has gone from, we did one time annually, we're 3 times, Jay, right now? 3 times a year, so we're meeting all of the standards of post and MPTC now. So, and we've gone from just shooting at targets to actually doing active training. So, so it's all pretty good.
No, thanks. I
Okay.
hear,
Awesome.
always hear nothing but good and compliments on all you folks and
Yeah.
the whole department. I mean, from the town, other towns, it's just, and you're so far ahead of the curve training wise and getting certified and everything like that, and carrying it to the extent that you do, far beyond what's
And
required.
you know, like I
So-
said, I bring these guys, and I would bring everybody else if they didn't have other things that they were doing as well, because it's you know, it's not just me. It's definitely everybody behind me here, and the people that you don't see, dispatch personnel, the police officers out on the street. We have a really great group of really dedicated people who are interested in providing exceptional service. So
Yep.
I
it's
just
all
have
on
a
them.
quick one for you. What's the status of the fleet right now, currently?
So the status of the fleet right now. Funny you should ask that.
I only know because I know that we're still waiting on vehicles, correct?
Yeah,
from
well,
last year?
so we're in better condition, but yeah, so we have 2 right now. So we have all the vehicles that have been that the funds have been appropriated for, but 2 of them are in the phase where we're waiting for the upfit, and it's just a matter of getting parts. I'm surprisingly one thing we're having trouble. So you might consider this if we ever go to electric vehicles. We're having trouble getting batteries for our radios right now.
Really? Wow.
Like a lot of trouble. So I was able to
Like
secure.
the new Motorola stuff that we just upgraded to?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, because wasn't aware of this, but there's a smart chip in the battery, and so that's you know, we're 6 months out anyways.
Wow.
Which is what we've been told. So, but I did get a vendor, and I believe I have a shipment coming very shortly. So, but so that's so.
I suspect radios will be on a capital plan anyways.
Yeah, so there are some upgrades to the dispatch system that are going to be on the capital plan, and I'll have some more on that shortly.
They're expensive.
Yes, yeah. So on the mobile and portable end, we don't need a whole lot on that end, but on the console end, we do have to do an upgrade. And in addition to that, there is so Mass 911 has. I believe they're the culprit here, but their system. So they record all of our radio traffic, our 911 calls, and our telephone calls. And they've sent out a notice that in 3 years they're going to stop recording our radio traffic and our business calls. So they'll just be recording 911 calls, and we'll be responsible for that. But I'm already in the process of addressing that. I just got some figures today on that, so not too bad. But take care of it sooner rather than later, because all of this stuff, you wait a year on something, and the increase is incredible, I think, at this point. So.
Will the radio project include updating the repeaters? Because I know that's a huge issue.
No, because that's real, very, very costly. So that's a big issue. So we did have upgrades, but we're working with another company right now to upgrade the console, and we're addressing some issues with our voting sites and some fine tuning and things to that effect. So, and then once they do that, we'll see where we are, as far as that goes. But once you start talking about the repeaters and that kind of infrastructure, we're getting up into
Gotcha.
big dollar amounts.
Capital
So,
All right. Thank you.
okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you all
Thank
for
you.
coming in.
Yes, thanks,
It's
guys.
nice to see you all. Okay, next is, we have a department head report. Tina Broman, our new veterans agent. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for all having me tonight. I want to thank our town manager for hiring me. It's been an interesting 3 weeks. So I know you have what you have in front of you, but a little bit about myself. My husband and I have lived here for about 11 years, have enjoyed our time. When we were in the military, we met in the military. I was in the Air Force. I was a combat arms training and maintenance over in Incirlik, Turkey, and that was interesting. He's 100% disabled, veteran. My daughter is also a veteran. We come from a long line of veterans in our family, so this is something that's really important for me to do. Before this job, I was always volunteering, and I wasn't looking for a job, but someone said to me, hey, this might fit you. So I was blessed to be able to serve in this capacity. So a lot goes into the veteran service officer position that I had no idea. Even being a veteran in this town, I had no clue. So one of the biggest things that I found out that the towns do for our veterans are Chapter 115 benefits. So it's a supplemental program for people who have lower income, and it'll supplement their income, can help with fuel and things like that. Also reimburse in medications or insurance, medical insurance. So it's a huge program. It's very beneficial to the town. I don't think a lot of people know about it. We have 32 veterans that we're serving currently. And today I got the numbers from the census. Respectively, it's 650 veterans. But that's if they fill out the little census card and say, hey, I'm a veteran. A lot of people don't know how important that is, because the higher the number of veterans, the more the state's going to help. It's not taking anything away from anyone. It's not incurring more of a cost for the town, because the town is reimbursed 75%. You do take 25% of that hit, but it's definitely worth it. So my position is going to be, I'm jumping around here, to do outreach. That's going to be a huge part of my program here, or I say my program, is going to the AMVETS, going to different home front coffee hours. They have it over in Ware, but I hear that a lot of different veterans from different towns go there. So I want to make it there, at least once in a while to outreach over there. The Palmer Senior Center I've already been in contact with, and they said that before they had someone going there like once a month. I'm going to go there and see what the need is. If it's more than once a month, then that's what I'll be doing. It's whatever the need is going to be. I'll fit it in my schedule. I already have some plans in the future, what I want to do and bring the veterans together, maybe for luncheons or breakfasts, not just coffee hours. There's also programs with other towns around. For example, they have a Purple Hearts committee that does a breakfast in Chicopee. It's a pretty big event. And so now they're talking about combining it with different communities, which I think would be huge. Speaking of Purple Hearts, Mrs. Smith, she told me to call her Chris. She was nice enough to bring this to me to adjust the numbers that we have. On this form, I had 61, but there's actually 59 current Purple Heart members. And we are looking to raise that number. I know I currently have in my office 2 people that I have to vet out and make sure that all the paperwork is there to pass on. But from what I hear, that is a wonderful program. I want to mention that Tailgate Tavern held a fundraiser. It was a soup-off, it was called, instead of a chili cook-off. They raised $2,500 for Light Up Palmer, and it was specifically for the Purple Heart banners and flags display. And then after, if there was anything left over, then they'd put it into the Christmas fund that also does the light up. When I was talking to Mrs. Smith, after I had typed this out, she was saying that people ask why the flags are only up and the banners are only up from Memorial Day to Veterans Day. And it's because they use the same poles as Christmas decorations and other things. And also, when people see something all the time, they get kind of complacent and then don't notice. So when you take those banners down and then they come back and they're refreshed and maybe there's more and the flags are new, people will notice it more. And more people in town. There might be new people in town that don't know that. She was also saying that the flags will be replaced, and some of the mounts. Some of the mounts are old or broken, so those are going to be replaced as well. They'll be looking at replacing the American flag and the POW flag at Depot Park. So, and it's all at their expense. They're not asking the town for any money, which I think is incredible, as far as their fundraising and whatnot. So I'll definitely be getting involved in that. So thank you very much. So as far as being the VSO, the training that's involved is pretty extensive, which I'm happy about, because when you're serving a huge community like that, you want to make sure that you know everything, and it's a lot, but you put your heart into it and you do it. So within 6 months of being hired, which my hire date was, I believe, January 17th, you have to be certified as a VSO through the state. So there'll be training. All the study materials will go over state, federal, the law 108 CMR, which actually kind of governs what our job does, everything that entails it. And then the Chapter 115 falls underneath that. So I will have to know all of that inside and out. I hope to have that done by May, because I also have to do my job besides studying. Then the other thing that they do are monthly trainings. There's what they call VOICE, the acronym, Veteran Outreach into Community Engagement. So that meets monthly, which is all the VSOs in the area, and go over all the collaborations that we can do, any new updates on anything that's happening. Everybody just is kind of coming together and piecing everything and making sure everybody's on the same page. Then they also have Central Western Mass Veteran Service Officers Association, and so that's combining Central and Western, self-explanatory, and we kind of do the same thing. That mostly is on Zoom. The VOICE we get together because it's actually in the area. I believe it's in Granby all the time. So today I jumped on a call. My first call was, or training, was a quarterly training with the Holyoke Soldiers Home. So they have a state representative on that, and they give us all the numbers. We know about all the COVID numbers, and they were talking about the eligibility and different ways. Anything you need to know about the Soldiers Home, they were telling us about today. Also, they are. It's no longer going to be called the Soldiers Home. Pretty soon, it's going to be changed to the Veterans Home, and also the Veterans Home the one in Chelsea is also going to be called the Veterans Home. So they're doing a lot of training under the new governor, which I think is pretty exciting. A lot of funds are being, and committees are being put together by the governor, which is really excited about. They have 2 annual trainings. One is in June, and that's the Veteran Service Officers in Massachusetts, the Central and Western. And then in October, it's run by the Department of Veteran Services, so that's by the state. So those are 2 intensive trainings that we get on different levels. And so those are things I'm looking forward to. I think there's also the Western Mass Veterans Radio that we have right here in town. They have a radio show that they will record, and then it's on Saturday mornings. So they've invited me to do that. And there's a podcast that 2 of our VSOs, I believe in Wilbraham and Ludlow, and they have those going on.
Do you know the name of that podcast?
I did not get that.
That's okay.
That was the one I was short on. I said the Western Mass Veterans Radio, got that one. The other one, I don't know. They're done by the gentlemen's in Wilbraham and Ludlow, so I can get that name for you.
Yeah, I
Eric
like
would know.
listening
Eric's
to
a good one.
podcasts on my way to work,
Yeah,
so.
yes, I listen to Eric on Saturdays.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good resource too.
Definitely.
I work with him on other things, and I always see it. We do the Reese Across America.
And he's in Ludlow, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I can say one thing about the VSOs in this area, they have been a huge resource, because I've said many times to people walking into my office, not veterans, but people around me asking, in the town hall, how I'm doing, and I'm like, this is amazing. It's a lot of stuff. Everybody's being super supportive, but all the training is not from the town. The town has nothing to do with it. So the town is giving the support, which I am extremely grateful for. But everything else is through the state and through local So all the VSOs are giving me all of their information, and it's been amazing with all their help. So I appreciate everything. Any questions?
It's only gonna get bigger.
I hope it gets bigger. I hope that the veterans, once I do my reach out, which that's what I'm good at. I have to get all through all this paperwork and everything, and I know that's very, very important, and I'm going to get trained through every avenue that I can. But reach out is the fun stuff to me, but that's also the most important. And I'm really used to doing that with all different ways that how I've lived and done work with all different veterans agencies. So heavily involved in that. So
Welcome.
thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Thanks,
well,
Tina.
Yeah, I got a whole list for you, don't worry.
Mark?
We have to talk before Sunday.
That's fine. That's great. I am available. So-
And I don't know how much of a conversation you had with Homefront, but I got some ideas for you there.
Good, thank you. He did stop by, and I got the newsletter, and that's how I found out about the coffee hour. So I'll be stopping by there. It's on my calendar for sure.
What does Homefront mean? Or what do they
So
do?
it used to be called the Brookfield Institute.
Yeah.
And now they're kind of repurposing, kind of focusing their primary goal now is suicide prevention and really recovery for families and soldiers and sailors and stuff. So, but I'm on the board with them too.
good.
So I want to get you in front of them to
Good,
kind
thank
of
you.
get some stuff going.
Any information is good information for me. Like I said, my husband's 100% disabled, been through a lot with him. The gentlemen that were sitting behind me I'm so grateful for the police department to be joining with the mental health part of it, because that can be hugely misunderstood.
Yeah.
It is.
They are
100%.
brought to a home of a veteran, and they don't understand that what is happening. And I've actually had to interact with the police, Palmer Police, on that, and they were wonderful.
Yeah.
When a veteran is in a state that in a flashback, and they're reverting back to their sergeant and the lingo that they're used to, and someone shows up and doesn't understand what they're talking about, that's pretty difficult. And but I can tell you the experiences that I've had have been very good. And I am so grateful that they're even, and this was before 2020. This was way before. So they were wonderful in that capacity, and they didn't even have that training. So I was happy. So
Schizophrenia, everything they should be trained in.
everything,
And I believe they are.
absolutely,
Because they look like they're hurting themselves, and they're not. They're
right.
trying to get the voices to stop.
My background also is a vocational specialist with special needs students in high schools, and someone could be autistic and just being triggered by something, a smell or whatever, just not having a good day. And if you don't respond to something like that, it could get pretty ugly. So it's really encouraging to know that the police department is doing that.
Thank you, Tina.
Yeah,
Welcome
thank you.
aboard. We're
Thank
happy
you.
to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So the next item is a resolution for $551,407 for a Vector truck from sewer surplus. Ryan, do you want to talk about that?
Sure, I will be very quick. Our current Vector truck is on its last legs, so here's an opportunity to get a new one. It is in the capital plan that was on the wastewater treatment plant rate schedule, so it was an intended purchase.
What's the current balance of the sewer surplus?
Ooh, off the top of my head, 2.2 million. I'll get you the full number later on.
Just out of curiosity, how do we get a surplus like that?
Building up and
Yeah, building up that large. If it's a, what is it, fund, where only people that are paying on the system are paying for, so how,
Sewer users?
yeah,
right. So
just out of curiosity.
Well, it's a various things. I mean, obviously, a lot of it is retained earnings, right? You budget, and then things didn't cost as much as you thought, so you retain the differential between what the thing cost and what you budgeted. And that would drop into sewer surplus, just as money, can be put into stabilization here for the town. And then secondly, when you create a rate structure, you're also looking at what your future needs will be. So some of that's built into the rates to be able to create a sewer surplus, because you have ongoing capital expenses, extraordinary, ordinary.
Got it. Okay.
I would just say 2.2 million really isn't that much for.
Not for a sewer.
Not for
Right.
sewer, because all,
Well, we've had a lot of large capital projects that we've been doing upgrades and fixing things, so, no, I'm just curious.
and a lot of the
Right.
simple components that keep things running are extremely expensive
Yeah.
for just minor parts sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna, I met with Ty and Bond earlier today to talk about a couple of things that are coming up that are extraordinary. They were not anticipated. I mean, you could argue that they should have been, but some of these things, it takes them 20, 30, 50 years to start to break down. So it's not always, in government life, the cycles of people to look at things are not always sometimes lasting 20 years or 30 years or 50 years. So for example, 80 something percent of all of the flow that goes into the wastewater treatment plant comes into a structure that then goes under the Quabog River. And that structure is failing. Parts of that structure are spalling off and going into the pipe. A large enough piece goes in and blocks that pipe, it will block 80 something percent of the flow to the plant. And that'll just start going everywhere.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
Yes, it
Not good.
yeah. So I mean, it's a big project. It'll be phased, but again, it's not something that everybody had eyes on until this thing is inspected periodically.
Got it.
Was this? Oh,
Is it about the Vector truck?
It has to do with a follow-up to Matt's question.
Is it about the Vector truck, or?
It could be. It pertains to where the funds are coming for the Vector truck.
They're coming from the sewer surplus.
Exactly. So that I have a question. This is a very awful issue for me.
I didn't come, hi, my name is Chris Smith. I'm a resident of Palmer, and I didn't really come to speak about this, but in the past, I raised a concern about the surplus and the costs of the sewage treat, for the centrifuge and for the cost of the building. That's going to be taxed to the 2,900 sewer users.
The capital plan should
The
put-
capital
yes,
plan,
capital plan.
when this came up before. So now we're back to having a surplus, and you're going to use it on a town vehicle, all right? You're going to
Town
take,
vehicle.
you're talking about the
Vector
Vector truck.
Or the sewer lines. It's not for the town.
Okay, it's
It doesn't
still.
mow the lawn. It doesn't do anything in the parks.
All right, but I'm going back to the thing of the sewer users are paying for everything, and there's this excess of money.
There's not an excess of money.
There's 2.2 million that you just said was in surplus.
It's just what the thing's called. It's not excess money.
It's a surplus, all right?
But it's included in the capital plan.
But it's included in the capital plan.
Right.
So some of this stuff basically is still for the benefit of the entire town. The sewer plant is the same as many capital buildings, that you wouldn't be able to even entertain the possibility of an additional housing development at Forest Lake if you didn't have a sewer plan. So in or a sewer wastewater treatment plant because you couldn't handle the waste because you probably couldn't pass Title V out at
Is
Forest Lake. Wait a minute, let me finish. So basically, what I'm saying is, it's time for town council, I'm gonna bring it up again, that some of this needs to be spread over all taxpayers, because I would pay twice. I would pay as a sewer user and a taxpayer. All right? But yet, it's only the sewer users that pay for things. And a Vector truck is a benefit for all people in this town.
Only
So
the
we have to look at this in multiple ways.
Only the sewer users, because it's used to clean out the sewers.
But does the town of Munson and the town of Belchertown, are you contracted in a rate with them? Are you increasing their rates?
Belchtown has its own sewer treatment plant.
Well,
or
don't
water-
they use our wastewater treatment plant for that into town? And, well, definitely Munson does. Okay, so town
can't
council
right.
needs to look at that down the road as you go into some of this stuff. Every time the sewer usage comes up or there's surplus, it's back to the sewer users. And I'm sorry that I probably shouldn't have come. I said I wasn't coming to any more meetings after that last meeting. And this is a very sore subject, because in 10 years, we're going to be paying $1,000 a year for sewer use. You are, and your business is going to pay at the same rate. I mean, people on sewers, and it's really not fair if you don't have a facility in town. The Wing Hospital needs to process their waste. Any business that comes into this town that's going to be on a sewer needs that plant, all right? Or if there's property where there is no sewerage, you're going to have to connect it. So that wastewater treatment plant is an enticement that we can handle that, and it benefits all taxpayers. So I think town council has really got to think about sewerage, where you're heading this town with the systems that go down there, whether it's under the Quabog River that's got to be fixed or whatever. It's all taxpayers that benefit in the end. I'll pay twice as a taxpayer and a sewer user. But if you are on a septic system, you will pay once, but you will benefit in the end by having that new business come to town. And the town council is not considering that.
My last comment on that is only going to be, because it was questioned recently, I got questioned, was that if you're on a sewer system and they come and pump, or if you're not on the sewer system and you have a septic system and they pump your septic, is it true or not? Does it still go to the waste treatment plant?
But you pay.
But you pay to have it
You
pumped.
pay to have it pumped.
Right, you would pay the contractor to come out and pump your
Right,
tank.
which covers
And then
cost.
that covers the cost for them to dump it into our wastewater.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So do those profits, I'm going to just call them profits because that's extra money that's not
Stay with the
budgeted.
sewer
Right.
fund.
Yep.
Was that included in the calculations for the capital plan?
Yes.
Okay, so the reason why I asked that is that the money that's coming in from private users not on the system is getting calculated as an income to the plant and calculated into the rate. So even though the rate is going up for the users itself, we're still getting a break by everybody else dumping their waste in the sewer treatment plant.
Once every,
What, right, one,
You're
right.
supposed to pump every year.
Every year, yeah.
If that sewer user uses, if that septic company
Correct.
uses that,
Right.
and that's not a guarantee that they deliver to the Palmer wastewater.
Right, I'm sure it's like water receipts, they're gonna fluctuate, right?
Right.
I don't know the ins and outs, like the details, but that was the question that I was asking, was just to make sure that that was being calculated into the rate. So if more people were dumping there, and that obviously would offset the cost of the rate increase. But I don't know how that works. I don't know all the details. Right.
But also, when the rates go up, is town going to increase Munson's rate, or are you contracted
I-
in at a rate for them?
That would be something that Ryan and the sewer department would have to look into, right? It's something to note,
It should be.
right? But we'll have to
It
find
should
out.
be up.
Yes. Thank you.
I just had, going back to the truck, I had a question. Is this off of a bid list or,
No, we went out because it needs to be custom built. So we sent out a scope of specs to all the different manufacturers, and I put in the 3 most reasonable quotes that we got, with 551 being the lowest.
right?
That can still be custom bid because it has to be able to fit into our bay.
Oh, I know,
So it
that
has
was
to be like
challenges.
13 feet long.
Yeah,
or
gotta
less.
love that.
And what's the vehicle we're replacing? How old is that vehicle? Do you know?
I don't have its age off the top of my head, but I believe it's pushing like a good
30 years.
Didn't we have to rent one recently anyways?
I don't think so.
I thought we had to
I'll
do
double
something
check.
over
I don't
on
remember
Thorndyke
renting one.
Street.
I mean,
But we've got one that's pushing like what 20 years or 15 years or whatever.
yeah, it's almost like buying a fire truck at that point. You would hope that it would last 20 to 30 years.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion to accept.
I'll second. I will
You should
second.
buy a second, I
It's
think.
okay. There's
Any
another
further-
one.
Man
Any further
handling it.
discussion?
There's another one.
I'll let you have it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Can you
Unanimous.
send that down to Bob?
Next is a resolution for $12,500 for a financial services consultant.
Make a motion we accept.
Second. Oh, sorry, I was gonna let you have that
All
one
right,
too.
I defer. to the young man.
I'll
Take a breath.
Your caffeine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Did you vote in the affirmative? Okay. Thank you.
Aye, man.
Next item is a resolution for $61,400 for stormwater utility ordinance and regulations, funding to come from the American Recovery Plan Act, ARPA.
Questions? So this is for us to develop an ordinance and regulations
Correct.
because we currently do not have them.
So, I will, tell the story right from the book of Genesis, or at least my version of the book of Genesis. We used to have a conservation agent that was also very into stormwater. That, first of all, all 351 cities and towns have to do something about stormwater, sooner rather than later. But you will have to do something. You will just be consent decreed into doing whatever you're told to do. So anyways, we had a conservation agent. They were very into this. They sit on the state's regional Central Mass Stormwater Committee, and they started writing the new ordinance and the regulations. We have 3 old ordinances now. Those need to be combined into a minimum of 2, and hopefully the best case scenario is you could actually work it all into 1. But there are some large-scale developments and small-scale developments, so that's why you would need a minimum of 2 ordinances. But then most importantly, you need to write all the regulations. So about a year, 2 years ago, we thought we were ready to go. I was going to put it in the budget, and we went before the planning board meeting ostensibly to talk about the ordinances. But the person at the conservation agent at the time had also attached the draft regulations. And everything went spiraling into the drain from there. Because the regulations were, mostly just cutting and pasting what Central Mass Stormwater Committee had. So they were very sort of Eastern Mass centric. Very, very regulation heavy, talking about numbers of trees that would need to be replanted for every tree removed. Things that just would not really sort of be what we would have normally written into our regulations here. And obviously the meeting became very argumentative and non-productive. So I knew we had to shift gears, and this was not something that we could do in-house. seeing the result of the in-house work that was produced. So going to some professionals, they have an entire division that's centered around stormwater. Ty and Bond will be able to do this, be able to do it in a much more community-focused way with meetings, stakeholder meetings, input, refinement, and having regulations that meet our needs that are not just regulations that are pulled off the internet and cut it and pasted. So that's where this comes from. It is taking a step back, looking at what our deficiencies were, making corrections, and putting forward a better product.
Got it. And it's required, like you started with.
Right.
We have to.
Yeah, so, I mean, part of this is, the biggest hesitancy is to impact individual regular people, residential homes. I'm not saying there will be zero impact. I'm saying the point is to try to mitigate and minimize that. Mm-hmm. So, and you do that, the biggest users, the biggest people who create what are called impermeable surfaces are, parking lots, giant flat roofed, big box stores, new developments that, again, don't incorporate things like rain gardens and best practices. So those are really the folks that, are going to be impacted by the fees the most. And again, we're going to start very slowly, phase this in over a period of years until we get to the spot where we're covering our needs and, set up for any future mandates that come down the line. But that's really it. That's all we're trying to do.
Great.
Any questions or comments?
No.
So I'm just gonna say, I'm not gonna support this right now. I think that there has been no discussion that I have been a part of, to get any input as to what we're looking to do, and I feel like somewhere in here, I was trying to find it quickly, but Ty and Bond says that they had sent like 3 or 4 different ordinances to the town already, I believe it says in here.
Over a number of years.
Yeah, but I think that it might be helpful for the council to see some draft ordinances from other communities and how this functions, only because there is going to be, once these ordinances are put in place, there's going to be a fee. I don't even know if it's called a fee or a tax. I'm not really sure. Stormwater
Assessment.
surcharge or, assessment. I don't know how it works. I feel that once we move forward with this funding, it's going to move very quickly and we're going to have an ordinance. And, I, for one, would like to know, is this going to apply to just commercial and industrial buildings? Is it going to apply to residential homeowners? So,
But all of that is built into this process.
yeah, well, it's $61,400, which I think is a lot of money, and I think that we could have some conversations about it ahead of time to know, how we're phasing it in and what, because once we draft an ordinance, it's not gonna say in 2024, this is gonna happen, and in 2025, this is gonna happen. It's just gonna be an ordinance that says, this is what we're gonna do. So that's just my 2 cents. Anyway, do I have a motion to approve?
Isn't there a timeline?
It's 10 to 12.
Isn't there a timeline where we're supposed to be at a certain point by a certain time? Are we past that point? Should this have already been done?
Yes. I mean, we're not past the timeline. We're not past anything really. But MS5 is coming up. We're already, we just did our MS4 reporting for, so we've got about a year before we got to do the next report. But all of those reports are going to start to have things that cost money tied to them. It will just come out of the town budget until we create an enterprise that is dedicated towards just those things. I mean, I understand where Councilor Barry's coming from, but I mean, all of that, I guess I would need to be directed on how do you want to have these discussions? Should I invite Ty and Bond to come to a council meeting, set up separate meetings? I want to keep this moving forward if we're not going to do this right here.
I think that there's 2 different things, and so I just want to be clear of where I'm coming from. we have thresholds that we have to meet as part of
That's what I
the
meant.
stormwater, regs, okay? But there is nothing that says a community has to have an assessment that goes to its commercial industrial property owners, the residents. There's nothing that says that. I think that what we have not seen, and again, I don't know either. I mean, every town is slightly different, so you can't 100% be like, this town is gonna cost this to do that. It's all different based on what's in your community. But what I am saying is, I would like to know what those thresholds are that we have to meet and what the cost is related to those thresholds, because I do agree, there's some stuff that we do not have the staff or the expertise needed for some of the things that have to be done through stormwater to meet those goals. But we have been doing we have been doing different things. We probably have been hiring Ty and Bond to do some of those things. I'm just saying, I want more information before I take a jump to spend $61,000 for an ordinance that then passes the cost on to individuals, because I don't know what the cost is. Is it $30,000 a year? Is it $300,000 a year? I don't have answers for that, and I would just like to have answers. But again, that's just my opinion. If everybody else thinks that this is, I see where Ryan's coming from. I just don't feel like I have enough information at this point to make an educated decision on this.
No, I agree.
Barbara, didn't we do stuff before with stormwater in the years past? I remember we talked about it.
Is that the ionized?
Was anything ever done? This could have been 5 years ago.
Stormwater's it's been more than 5 years, I think, since we
Probably.
do appropriate small amounts of money, but there's some blocks of things that have to be done that don't cost a lot of money. There's other blocks of things that have to be done that are more expensive, and you have to meet all these steps as the process goes along. And, like I said, I don't know what Palmer has had to do over the years to meet different criteria. But, I'm not saying that I may not, support this down the road. I'm just saying I would like to have a little bit more information on this.
But I think I don't know if we're gonna have that without going through this process.
I don't know either.
Develop the stormwater management credit policy. So
But we have-
eligibility criteria, defining,
Yeah, but don't we have to give input to Ty and Bond so that they know how to write the ordinance and what we're looking to do? And that's all I'm saying is I don't know that we're there yet. And I would rather, I understand the need that you want to see this move forward. I'm not saying to delay it forever. I'm just saying,
no, but what I don't understand is the mechanism to get you the information that you're seeking.
again, I think it would be,
Comparable communities. Like, are any other communities out there right now that set up the enterprise fund for the stormwater utility?
Yeah, there's a whole mass.gov page.
No,
for
that's.
this
I
that-
think that's where Barbara's going.
and
Is
the
that
cost. What,
Right.
in the next 10 years, what thresholds do we have to meet and what's the estimated cost for those?